Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, Bowl edition, as we have our second to last show of the season with Matt Joseph, sportsmemo.com, at MidMajorMatt on Twitter. Matt, welcome in. How you feeling, man?
Feeling good. Not as good as I was about this UCF game, although I did just put a live bet in on UCF plus the points because John Reese Plumlee does look pretty healthy for this one. But feeling good, Drew, so far. Coming off a 3-0 night last night.
All right, nice. Seeing it well. Guys, check them out, sportsmemo.com. And on this episode here, we are going 247, 248 down to 265, 266 rotation number here. That puts us down to Wyoming and Ohio. If you're new to sports betting, if you go to wagertalk.com, the live odds screen, those little numbers next to the team name in college football, we are just going down in numerical order, hitting every single game on the board for college football bowl season. Starting here with this afternoon's matchup, the Liberty Bowl in, of course, the Liberty Stadium there in Memphis, Tennessee, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific kick here. Kicking us off, Matt, 247, 248, Kansas and Arkansas. 70 being the total. Arkansas minus 2.5-point home favorites. Are you liking anything here? Big 12 versus SEC in the Liberty Bowl.
Well, clearly this is one of those games that when we talk about motivation is a huge factor. It 100% is here. And we'll get into something else involving motivation in just a second. But when you look at these two teams, you look at a Kansas Jayhawks team that pretty much has everybody back. There's a injury involving Lawrence Arnold. They have not been in a bowl game since 2008. The opt-outs and transfer portal guys really aren't anybody of substance, just some depth pieces. So you're going to arguably get a very healthy Kansas team and hopefully a very healthy Jalen Daniels, who has not been 100%. And you kind of notice how this team goes when he is more in the lineup. So I expect a solid effort from the Kansas side. And then you look at the Arkansas side, and there's a lot of people that are not playing in this game, which tells me a little bit about what Arkansas's mindset is. You look at the opt-outs here, and you start at wide receiver, Jaden Hasselwood, Keytron Jackson, Trey Knox. These are guys who won't be playing in the game. Offensive lineman Ricky Stromberg, who is the first-team All-SEC center. You've got Drew Sanders and Bumper Poole at linebacker who are not playing. You've got Miles Slusher, who's a defensive back. You've got a defensive tackle in Isaiah Nichols, who is in the transfer portal and or opting out. And then you have the defensive coordinator, Barry Odom, who left and is now coaching at UNLV, Drew. So to me, motivation, the huge edge is on Kansas. Now, here's the thing that's keeping me at least off the Kansas side. It would be my lean for it. Kansas' defense is brutal, and they still have Jefferson at quarterback. They still have Sanders at running back, and there's still an opportunity for them to score some points. So, there's probably some other ways to kind of isolate and take care of the Kansas side of things without involving their defense. So certainly you could take a look there. And the real quick thing I want to talk about, Drew, a lot of people will look at motivation and say, well, this is the number one thing, motivation. Motivation's good, Drew, I think, and we'll see if you agree here. Motivation's good till like halftime and the third quarter. But if you keep an unmotivated team hanging around, then they eventually start getting motivated. And I'm trying to think, Drew, there was a bowl game earlier already this bowl season where that was exactly the case. You had a motivated team that was just kicking field goals, and then all of a sudden the unmotivated team was still hanging around, and then all of a sudden, they become motivated. So it's key for motivation, and that the thing keeps going for like a half. But Drew, I feel like an unmotivated team in that second half, they start to get motivated if they can see a chance of winning a contest.
Good start here in the Liberty Bowl, guys, as we move down to the Holiday Bowl, Petco Park, San Diego, California, where the San Diego Padres play their home games. It's ACC versus the Pac-12, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific kick. Out west here, Matt, we get North Carolina and Oregon, 76 being the total, bought up from 71.5, minus 13. That is Oregon as listed as the home team here. Likely more Oregon fans overall in the stadium. What are you thinking here? UNC and Oregon in the Holiday Bowl.
So let's take the Oregon side of things first, Drew. A couple of key guys out on defense. Christian Gonzalez, who's their number one corner, he opted out, first team all-conference. And Noah Sewell at linebacker, who's a 3-year starter. The transfer portal has, I think, 11 or 12 guys. They're mostly depth pieces. They're not really huge in terms of losses here. The key is, and we heard from their head coach, that Bo Nix is going to play, and Bo Nix is going to be pretty close to 100%. And that's bad news for North Carolina. The other thing to consider here on Oregon side is Dillingham is going to Arizona State, the offensive coordinator. I still think that basically Oregon's going to be able to name their score. And that's why you've seen this thing go up and up and up and up. I'm a little concerned about their defense. Certainly Oregon's defense can be thrown on. I made several winning prop bets against with taking quarterbacks throwing passing yards. Michael Penix, I think, went over his number in the third quarter against Oregon. So not having Christian Gonzalez, I think, is pretty big for an Oregon team that you can already throw on, and they're without their number one corner. Problem is, you look on the other side of at North Carolina, opting out Josh Downs, their number one wide receiver. Now, people will look at that and say, wow, that really kills the North Carolina offense. If you look at a couple of games that he did not play in early on, I believe it was both the Appalachian State game and the Georgia State game, the offense still moved. Now, granted, look, defenses are different levels. That's Sun Belt versus Pac-12. But still, this offense is still going to be able to move. Drake May, who reportedly, I don't know if you believe this, Drew, was offered $5 million to leave North Carolina. He's still at Chapel Hill. He's still running this offense. The transfer portal, 11 guys entered the transfer portal, Drew, including the whole secondary pretty much. Tony Grimes and Storm Duck, the corners. Cameron Kelly, the safety. Hollins entered the portal but decided to come back. So a North Carolina defense that is already atrocious is without pretty much their whole secondary. So that's why you're seeing all this money come in on the over here. I think we get a lot of points in this one. I think both sides can go back and forth. North Carolina is also without their offensive coordinator, but Drake May is just so talented that I think whoever they put in there will certainly be able to keep that offense going. But you could see why the overs hit, Drew. Both teams have a lot of weaknesses. I'd get involved with some props here, maybe a Drake May passing yards over, Drake May passing touchdowns over, Bo Nix stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of offense in this one.
So your passing yards over prop, that was going up against this Oregon defense with the opposing team's quarterback, right? And then Drake May just fitting that profile.
Correct. Yeah. Michael Penix killed them. Cameron Ward killed them. It was a lot of the passing-based offenses that had a lot of success against Oregon. And let's say Oregon gets out to a lead here, Drew. You know Drake May is going to keep throwing it and try and get them back into the game. The one concern is if they're down like 3 or 4 touchdowns late, do they take him out? I don't really think that's necessarily the case here. I just think May's going to be throwing the ball. North Carolina has a modestly decent run game, but they're going to throw the ball, and I think they're going to find some alleyways with Gonzalez out for Oregon.
I like, and then to your $5 million, he was off. Was that where to go to another school? What was that all about?
Apparently. Now, there was disputed reports that he was offered by 2 different schools $5 million. His parents came out basically, or at least his handlers or whoever, somebody from high school came out and said that's not true. But you know what happens, Drew. Twitter makes the rumors go round and round, and $5 million is a lot of money. But Drake May is still suiting up for North Carolina. The one thing I'll say is, Drew, we really haven't had that big swerve yet. You know, in the bowl season, Drew, there's always that one guy who we always think is going to play, and it's right before kickoff, and he's not out there. I'm just wondering if there's a swerve coming at some point where somebody said they're going to play and they don't end up playing. John Reese Plumlee, I thought, was maybe not going to play today. Of course, he's playing, and he looks good so far for UCF.
Yeah, Drake May, I saw his quote of like, no, he wants to stay in North Carolina. He grew up a fan and all. So I don't know. That makes me kind of want to bet on him. I just don't think Oregon's the team I want to be going against here. As we got another game late night tonight, Wednesday, December 28th, as we're breaking down the top half of what's left of the bowl season. We'll bring Robbie Vino in about an hour's time to break down the bottom half. Mississippi and Texas Tech. Matt, interested in your opinion here, because I had Texas Tech circled as bet on, but when they were matched up against Ole Miss, I just couldn't get there. So I haven't bet anything in this game. -3.5. That's the Ole Miss Rebels versus the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 72 being the total. This is the Texas Bowl in Houston, Texas, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific kick. Big 12 SEC. What do you like in Ole Miss and Texas Tech?
So this is the game that everybody has said, and I've been watching several places and reading some write-ups. This is 2 extremely fast-tempo teams. There will be a ton of plays in this one. Now, we don't always have to assume that they're going to lead to touchdowns. I think that's kind of the misconception here, Drew. Occasionally we see that, like in college basketball, you see 2 really fast teams and a really high total, and it doesn't get there because just because you're fast doesn't mean you're effectively fast. Now, I think each team's offense lines up with the opposing team's weakness. You look at Texas Tech. Transfer portal, nothing too spectacular. Donovan Smith, one of the quarterbacks, is gone. Safety Reggie Pearson Jr. is gone. His backup is also gone as well. But like other than that, Texas Tech pretty much back. Tyler Shao, I believe is how you say it, is going to be the starting quarterback. The Oregon transfer. He wants to throw the ball. Coming off a game where he threw it 50 times and had 2 touchdown passes. That matches up well against Ole Miss, whose secondary is just not very good. So I find some success coming for Tyler Shao in this one. And then you look on the Ole Miss side, you look at their transfer portal stuff. Luke Altmaier, the backup quarterback, is in the transfer portal. Miles Battle, who played in all 12 games at cornerback. But pretty much it feels like it's Lane Kiffin just basically saying, hey, look, you guys you don't have a future here. So like go start early and go see if you can find a future someplace else. Their offensive line coach went to Auburn. They want to run the ball. And so you look at Judkins running the ball a lot, and Texas Tech's weakness is against the run here, Drew. So you're going to see a lot of plays, both teams matching up against their weakness. And of course, that's why we're seeing a lot of money coming in on the over here. Texas Tech will be somewhat the home team. Ole Miss is going to travel for this one. That's never a concern here. So I, like you, had some interest in Texas Tech potentially, but this was a tough one to kind of find an angle on, even though everything is pointing to the over.
Yeah, I mean, I just had Texas Tech circled as like a real tough team. They seem to be well coached, kind of like playing a little bit better than a lot of people thought this season. And with the 3 quarterbacks, I believe 2 of them not going to be playing. I don't know that it hurts them so much because they rotated in all 3 guys. Should be a good one though. Tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time, as we turn the page here. Thursday, December 29th, the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium. So we got another baseball stadium here hosting it, Matt. 2:00 Eastern, Minnesota in Syracuse. 42.5 being the total. We are seeing the Golden Gophers looking to row the boat, minus 11-point favorites. You like anything here? Minnesota and Syracuse in the Pinstripe Bowl here, Matt.
My beloved Orange, Drew. It's not what it's going to say Syracuse on the jersey, but the people playing in those jerseys, not what we're going to expect. So if you take a look at Syracuse, just recently opting out as running back Sean Tucker, that was a huge part of our offense. At times Syracuse used to get away from Tucker, which I was very disappointed in. They would go very pass heavy, or they would have Schrader running the ball more. But Tucker's opted out. He's going to join the NFL draft. And Matthew Bergeron, one of our best offensive linemen up front, he's another key piece. He opted out for this game. Transfer portal, pair of wide receivers, Courtney Jackson, Anthony Quealy, defensive lineman Steve Linton, our secondary, and yes, I know I'm saying but it is my alma mater, and I used to at least pay money to them. Deuce Chestnut is a cornerback. He's not playing in the game. And safety Jihad Carter, who had a lot of key turnovers for Syracuse. These guys opted out went to the transfer portal. And then, by the way, the same day, Syracuse lost both their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. So that's my concern here. Of course, there will be some sort of at least some home field advantage. I briefly considered going to this game, but I wasn't very interested in watching a shell of a team take on Minnesota. So I don't know what to expect with Syracuse. I'll be interested to see where their team total number ends at. I don't know how much offense we're going to generate here as a unit. Minnesota's defense has been very good. You look on that side of the ball, there's 2 defensive guys who are transferring, safety Michael Dixon and linebacker Braylon Oliver, a couple of other pieces that are also transferring. The one thing we don't know, Drew, and I haven't seen anything confirmed yet, it looks like Tanner Morgan's going to play in the game, but I haven't seen anybody say, yeah, Tanner Morgan's going to play in the game. That makes somewhat of a difference, although you know what the game plan is going to be with Minnesota. It's going to be Ibrahim left, Ibrahim right, Ibrahim middle. They're going to run the ball a ton with him and the backup running backs because Syracuse can get pushed around easily, Drew. I've watched them towards the end of the season. And those defensive linemen who are already undersized are going up against big man-sized Big Ten offensive linemen. So I expect Minnesota to win this game rather easily with or without Morgan. Slight downgrade if Morgan doesn't play. But this is just a mismatch here, Drew, that I would have liked to have seen with full strength, but obviously Syracuse is nowhere near that.
Matt, next game up, we got Thursday, December 29th, the Cheez-It Bowl, Camping World Stadium, Orlando, Florida. Oklahoma and Florida State. 5:30 Eastern kick here. 66 being the total. The Seminoles minus 9.5-point favorites. Oklahoma Sooners, Florida State Seminoles, Orlando, Florida. 5:30 Eastern on Thursday.
Well, I mean, once again, this is a motivation game. This is one side is motivated, one side is not. And I'm going to probably, and I haven't put my plays in yet for this one, but I think I have a general idea, and you'll have a general idea as I discuss this. The Oklahoma side, a huge loss with Eric Gray as their running back that is opting out. Huge loss. One of the best running backs in the Big 12. One of the best running backs in college football, had a really good season. Tackles Anton Harrison, Wanya Morris, both starters, so they're not going to have their two tackles here. Jalen Redmond, the leading snap guy up front, is also not going to play in this one for Oklahoma. Theo Weiss, a wide receiver, is transferring out. Nick Evers, I believe the backup quarterback for Oklahoma. I mean, this is the Oklahoma Sooners, Drew. They don't play in Cheez-It Bowls. They do not play in Cheez-It Bowls. They play in bigger bowls. And I understand it was a disappointing season for Oklahoma. But what's the motivation here for them to play in this game down in Orlando, Florida? It's going to be, you would tell me, it's 77 degrees is what it looks like. And so then you look at Florida State here, and everything you read about Florida State, they want to play in this game. Jordan Travis, I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago, actually came out and said, we owe it to this program that even if you're transferring out or even if you're opting out or thinking of opting out, we should play in this game. And that shows me that Florida State is very interested in playing in this game. And you look, 3 of the 4 guys in the transfer portal, Keyshawn Helton, Amari Gaynor, and Sidney Williams, all said they're going to play. You look at Jared Verse and Jamie Robinson. Apologies if I said his name wrong. Those are guys that are going in the NFL draft, Drew. They both said they're going to play in the bowl game. To me, I'm going to try and find a bunch of different ways to play Florida State here. I think Florida State wins the game. I think potentially they win it rather easily. It could be a very nice money line piece if you want to pair it with somebody else. But, Drew, I don't know about you. I want to be heavily invested in Florida State because it seems like they're a lot more interested in this game.
I'd like to think so too, and I can't disagree with anything you said, Matt. I mean, it's been a down year for Oklahoma. They're not used to playing in Cheez-It Bowls, like I think you said. And Florida State, they're feeling nice right now. They're on a good little run. I'm friends with a lot of Florida State alumni, and they're feeling really good about this. Laying the wood here with Florida State in Orlando. Should be a heavily FSU pro crowd here. So for whatever that's worth, nice weather as well in Orlando. Maybe look towards the favorite. -9 and a hook, though. It is laying the wood, but in bowl season, you want to be kind of on the right side of these motivation games, and it looks like Florida State to be the side, guys. We got next game up. What for the last one on Thursday that we're breaking down, Washington and Texas, Pac-12 versus Big 12 here. Texas -3-point favorites, 67.5 being the total. This is the Alamo Bowl here, Matt. Alamo Dome, San Antonio, Texas, 9 p.m. Eastern. What are we thinking? Washington and Texas.
So here's the thing that kind of is interesting for this game, Drew. I've seen everybody, a lot of the sharps, they're already on Washington. They got the better number. Obviously, this thing has come down a little bit. I'm a little hesitant here, Drew. It's the Pac-12 against the Big 12, and even though the Big 12 is not motivated, we'll get into that in just a second. I'm a little hesitant to go and take Washington. I may still end up doing it. I got to do a little bit more research in this game, but here's what we're looking at here. You're looking at the Washington side. Not much went through the transfer portal. There's one injury of note, Jack Westover, a tight end. We don't know if he's going to play, but the biggest news for Washington is Michael Penix Jr. is going to play. And that's huge because we've seen what he's able to do. He had not played in a bowl game, obviously, with Indiana. He's highly motivated for this game. We know that Washington's offense is very good when it comes to passing. I'll be interested to see, and the props I don't think are out for this game yet until probably maybe closer to kickoff, but I'll be interested to see what Penix's numbers are in terms of yards, passing touchdowns. I think he has a solid game here. Now, why everybody's on Washington is of the guys who aren't playing. The opt-outs, as expected. Bijan Robinson. Obviously, I would say, Drew, he's the best running back in college football, don't you think?
Probably.
So he's opted out. Roshan Johnson is back up. Another very good running back. He's opted out. DeMarvion Overshone, the linebacker, a NFL draft level linebacker, is opting out. In the transfer portal, we saw Hudson Card. I believe he just picked his transfer destination. There's a bunch of guys that are opting out here for Texas. And obviously it was not a great season for Texas. But here's my concern, Drew. And this is the one reason why I'm not running to the window for Washington, especially at a worse number than I could have had. This game's in Texas. I feel like Texas is the type of fan base that will show up for this game, that will be there, that will be loud, and that there will be a home field atmosphere for Texas. And look, Quinn Ewers, this is essentially his last game, because let's be honest here, Drew. I don't think he's going to stay, with Arch Manning coming in. Like, Texas promised Arch Manning the starting job, and I'm guessing that Quinn Ewers is essentially going to be a free agent. He's essentially auditioning for other schools. It's not like they don't have good wide receivers. It's not like they don't have, potentially a decent running back behind them, Drew. You could tell me, because Washington's defense isn't good either. But I'm not ready to run to the window to take Washington at a worse number and essentially a road game for them. What do you think about this game?
The Arch Manning thing's got me. I mean, you think Arch Manning's coming in as a true freshman and just starting right off the bat? I don't think we've gotten there yet, Matt.
I think there's a very good chance. I don't think Arch Manning went to a school and they told him he's going to have to compete for the job. There may be a competition, but I'm guessing week 1 next year, I don't know who Texas is playing, Arch Manning will be under center for the Longhorns next year. He's not coming to a school and sitting on the bench behind a Quinn Ewers or something like that.
No, that's amazing to think about, guys. Let us know in the reply section below what you guys think about this situation. I find it hard to believe that you're just going to promise a guy that he's going to start coming in. Like, what if he comes in and he gets up against light competition and he isn't the guy? Are you just going to waste your season because you promised him? Even if you did make the promise, I don't think as a head coach of a gig like this, you're the head coach for Texas. You want to keep that job. You're getting paid a whole lot of money. You're going to want to play the best kid that gives your team the chance to win the game. But I don't know, breaking this game down, I actually like the total to the over. 67 seems to be the low watermark to a lot of your points with Washington passing the football. I think they're going to score. In Texas, it does worry me a little bit. I mean, it becomes tricky handicaps here, Matt, how much these opt-outs affect the team. Sometimes I feel like it affects it a lot, and sometimes not so much. To tell you the truth, Matt, it's something I struggle with in bowl season is how much to factor that in. In Texas is a team where they're exactly that. It's a very tough handicap for me, Matt.
Yeah, and obviously, I think this more than anything else, Drew, you're going to have handicaps which are going to be completely wrong on game day. And, I mean, as we said, we're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Motivation can only get you so far. So I feel like in college football, in these bowl games, you could go and sit there and be like, this is how I think it's going to happen. And it could play the game, and it's not even close to what it is. So, yeah, I agree with you that there's some odd situations. I just think, I'm not saying I'm going to go take Texas here, Drew, unless this number potentially keeps falling down or somebody opts out for Washington. But I just think that at this lesser number, which is not the good one you could have had for essentially a true road game, it's still Texas. There's still talent on that roster. It's just, I'm not running to be like everybody else and jump on the underdog here.
He's Matt Josephs giving out good information. Last time, we're going to have him on the Every Game on the Board podcast here, guys. Check him out, sportsmemo.com. 14-4 in bowl games so far. He's seeing it well, seeing it clearly, obviously knows his college football. And if you check him out at sportsmemo.com, he is the most profitable college football handicapper this season, also the past 3 seasons. So, yeah, guys, check him out, sportsmemo.com, Matt Josephs. Follow him on Twitter at MidMajorMatt. We got Maryland, NC State up next. All ACC, at least from a few years ago. Now it's Big Ten ACC game. Right up your alley here, Matt. -1, that's NC State as the home team. 46.5 being the total. I say right up your alley. Of course, guys, if you don't know Matt Josephs, he has an ESPN radio show there in ESPN Richmond. Matt, anything on that? And what are you thinking here? Bank of America Stadium for the Mayo Bowl.
Yeah, 3-4 on ESPN Richmond here. I'm done for 2022. We are the station that airs all the bowl games, so I'll be back in 2023. And certainly we do a lot of coverage, college football, college basketball, the NFL. We're in Commanders country, unfortunately for me, with the Eagles flag behind me. All right, so for this game, Drew, some interesting angles here. You look at the opt-outs for the Maryland side. I mean, they're wide receivers. Dante Demas, Jacob Copeland, Rakim Jarrett, all not playing. That's a lot of receptions right there for Tagliavoa to his brother here. So that's a pretty large chunk of the offense for Maryland. They also have a Deontay Banks, who's a cornerback, who is honorable mention All Big Ten. He is not playing in this game. Their offensive linebacker, who is going to the NFL draft, did say he's going to play in the game. I'm not going to even try and butcher his name, so I'm not even going to say it. But you look at these losses for Maryland, and just their offense is just going to be a little lesser. I'll be looking at their team total under potentially, depending upon if it is what it is. And I'll be looking for key numbers. Anything under 20 and a half. I'm looking for maybe a 20 and a half or a 21 and a half. We're looking to the under there. On the NC State side, you saw Devin Leary is not going to be with the team. He's transferring out. Devin Carter, a wide receiver. They've got a couple of injuries. The starting center, Grant Gibson, defensive end, Savion Jackson. Some guys that are not playing in this game. And I was interested somewhat in not playing this game until the reports started coming out that MJ Morris is practicing. There was some thought as to he may not necessarily play in this game, but him and Ben Finley are practicing with the team. I would guess, since MJ Morris is your future and Ben Finley is not, I would guess that MJ Morris is going to play. Wait until closer to kickoff to see if you could kind of get something from the quotes there, but I would rather have MJ Morris starting. Their offensive coordinator left for Coastal Carolina, so Kurt Roper and two other coaches are going to, go over plays and everything together. I like the NC State side here, Drew. NC State's defense is the best unit in this game. You've got a Maryland team down their top 3 wide receivers as of now, which we should tell everybody, Drew. It's Wednesday. This game is on Friday, so things could change. Peyton Wilson's going to still play in this game. There's a couple of other linebackers that are still going to play in this game. I lean NC State here. I would get the NC State money line just in case the thing moves. Obviously, there's not real much difference between the money line and the one. Obviously, weigh your juices. But as you start getting away from it, maybe you would look at the money line. But I feel like NC State's the side here. What do you think?
No disagreement. We got 3 games left here, guys. Gonna have to pick up the tempo just a little bit, Matt. Pittsburgh and UCLA. Bruins -5.5 point favorites. 53.5 being the total. El Paso, Texas, right on the border in the Sun Belt. What do we like in Pittsburgh and UCLA, Matt?
By the way, last thing on NC State, remember last year's game, Drew? They canceled it the day of because there was COVID issues on the other side. I think NC State's motivated. UCLA, I think, was their opponent or something. UCLA, I don't have many notes on UCLA, which is a good thing. Now, there's still people who think Charbonnet may not play in this game. There's people who think, you may want to watch out for DTR status. Jake Bobo, some of the big stars for UCLA. Who knows what's going to happen there? So certainly you want to look at that when it comes to UCLA. But you look at the Pittsburgh side. Keaton Slovis is in the transfer portal. Kalisha Cansey is an All-American defensive lineman. He's opting out. Izzy Abanikanda, the running back, is opting out. A couple of tackles up front, a couple of defensive linemen. Servassier Dennis, who I interviewed at ACC Media Day, good guy. He's not playing in this game. Safety Brandon Hill. So a ton of Pittsburgh's defense is not playing in this game. It looks like it's going to be Nick Patty or Nate Yarnell at quarterback. Yarnell's been going through a little bit of an illness lately. To me, if UCLA has their offense intact, I'm looking team total over there. I'm looking something UCLA related. Clearly, Pittsburgh's defense is not going to be what we thought it was going to be. Also, slight, obviously, closer to UCLA. It's in El Paso, Texas. How many Pitt fans are going to make the travel out to El Paso, Texas? I like UCLA here, Drew, but obviously we keep our eyes on their biggest offensive players to see if anything changes between now and then.
We got South Carolina and Notre Dame up next in the Gator Bowl. Jacksonville, Florida, 51.5 being the total. -2. That's the Irish as the home team here. South Carolina, Notre Dame, Jacksonville, Florida. Great matchup here, Matt.
Yeah, I would have been all over South Carolina. It's an opportunity for South Carolina to play Notre Dame. Shane Beamer with a great finish to the season with those upset victories the last couple of weeks. South Carolina ravaged with people either transferring out or opting out. Among the names, Tony Grimes at defensive defensive back, RJ Roderick. Their 2 best tight ends, Jaheim Bell and Austin Stogner. Marshawn Lloyd, the running back, defensive end, Gilbert Edmond. Zach Pickens, another defensive tackle. Dylan Wanham, an offensive tackle. Corner Cam Smith and Darius Rush. A lot of their secondary is not playing in this game, and their offensive coordinator left for Nebraska. So I really don't know, Drew, what we're going to get from South Carolina, and a team that was kind of really hit or miss, it felt like. And it almost is like, you had those 2 wins to end the regular season. Did the momentum kind of go because they haven't played in a month? So that's something I'm kind of looking at here. And then you look at the Notre Dame side, as you would have guessed, Michael Mayer not playing in this game, Isaiah Foskey not playing in this game. They're both opting out to get ready for the NBA draft. Drew Pine is transferring, which means Tyler Buckner or Steve Angeli will be their quarterback. So Notre Dame's going to be a little bit lesser here. Lean to Notre Dame here based off of personnel, Drew. But as we said, this is still a couple of days away. There could be more people who opting in, suspensions, whatever. But right now, I would lean to Notre Dame here. I'm disappointed because I would have played South Carolina with a better roster.
Looking towards the Irish here. All right, last one for this episode. Then we'll bring in Robbie Vino to finish off the rest of the bowl season. Wyoming and Ohio, group of 5 matchup here, Matt. Arizona Bowl, Tucson, Arizona, 41.5 being the total, -1. That's the Ohio Bobcats as the favorite.
So Wyoming is down their top 4 running backs. Titus Swen is transferring out, and his backup also is transferring, and the third and fourth guys are both injured. So I don't know who's running the ball for Wyoming. It's an offense that already doesn't go very well. They're also without their wide receiver, Joshua Cobbs, who had 35 catches. I don't love the Ohio defense, but what are we going to get from Wyoming on their 5th string running back here? They're also making the trip to Arizona. That'll be good for them. And then on the Ohio side, now look, this time off, I think is going to help them with their backup quarterback. Remember, Curtis Rourke is out for this game. Their backup quarterback played a couple of games for them and now kind of gets a month to have an offense kind of tailored to him. You look at their notes, for the most part, Ohio's going to have a full roster, Drew. That's a big lean here for me. Ohio here, maybe the under in the game. Once again, clarifying things. We're still 2 days away. Things can change. But as of now, Drew, I'm leaning towards the under here. I'm leaning towards Ohio because their roster is more intact than Wyoming, who's already got offensive issues and is down 4 running backs and a wide receiver.
Yeah, good point on Rourke being out, but the backup quarterback getting a bunch of practices here, should be ready to rock. So great stuff, as always, from Matt Josephs, guys, the most profitable college football handicapper on sportsmemo.com. Also, the last 3 seasons, check them out there. 14-4 bowl games so far this season. We'll get a best bet from them. Guys, excuse me, I'm if the voice isn't coming through exactly correctly here, I'm fighting off a cold, but we're ready to cough up some winners with you. Matt, what do you got for best bets? Any final thoughts for the show?
I am going to probably say my best bet's NC State, money line, -1, whichever one you can get. I think NC State has the better defense, the best unit in terms of their defense in this one. It's going to be played in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's not to say Maryland fans won't be there too. I think there'll be a comfort level for NC State. I like the Wolfpack, which I'm sure I'm going to regret considering how they choke at times in big games. But best bet for the podcast as of now with no roster changes is NC State against Maryland.
Going with the NC State Wolfpack. All right, that does it, guys. Follow him on Twitter at MidMajorMatt. Check him out, sportsmemo.com, Matt Josephs. We will be right back with Robbie Vino and the rest of the Every Game on the Board podcast. Please smash that like button. Feel free to reply below.